very solid choices in the dinner stakes there. A good fly up. The tweets have gone out, the message has gone out. We're just going to give it a moment before we transition across and get rocking and rolling. But great to see a few people here as always. What do we have for dinner here? We had a wife did blue cheese, broccoli and walnut tart because we're middle class apparently. I think that's as good a point as any, given that royalty-free song has clearly hit the point where it was about to finish. So we will hit the button. And things are working properly this week again, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, I'm not massively pixelated, the kingdom come. But it all does appear to be working. We'll just give folk another moment or two to get into the chat, to get rocking and rolling. But it's great to see everybody as always. And then we'll get on and we'll do our usual bits and pieces is the plan. Like I say, make sure everything's gone out. Also, of course, do need to keep tabs on the game that we have going on this evening. Literally just because it appears that we have a goal in Milton Keynes. And Ben Solder has got himself on the score sheet, 1-0 Lightning over Hull. But as folk, chicken curry. That was Sunday lunch. That was actually Sunday lunch here. I made a massive chicken curry before I went up to Oxford on Sunday. Either way, it is 2 minutes past. Let's get this show on the road. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid and all beyond the binary. It is Wednesday night. It is 8 PM and welcome back once again to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell here once again to take you through all the machinations, madness, and everything that comes from the National Ice Hockey League structure here in Great Britain. We focus on the National Division. That is our bread and butter. That is our home port. But of course, we endeavour to look through absolutely anything and everything we can from the National Division, as well as Division 1 and Division 2 in the north and in the south. Happy Wednesday, everybody. News aplenty to talk about. As I said, we have got a game going on live right now. Milton Keynes and Hull meeting in the Thunderdome. MK have just taken the lead through Ben Solder. 7:37 on the clock. Solder from Dylan Lawrence from Cam Hamill to start off the scoring tonight in MK. Of course, two teams have had a pretty good start to the season so far, and we'll talk about that. Some of a surprising start from Hull in a little while. But of course, we do need to do a little bit of housekeeping before we kick off too much. Thanks for joining us here for another Wednesday night here from All Things BOTW. And of course, the best place to check out more BOTW related stuff is over on the website, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. That's the website where I've been writing since 2011 about British hockey. It started off as the Basingstoke Bison, and of course we've now started to branch out. With the Bison not playing this year, I'm on the grandest of grand tours. It's like the one with Jeremy Clarkson, only I'm less of a xenophobe. And ultimately we're going to be bouncing around all over the shop. We've done Basingstoke, we've done Gosport, we've done Oxford. Given the fact I'm based on the south coast, we'll be heading north, of course, in November. We'll be heading all the way up to Scotland, and we'll be basically bouncing around finding hockey anywhere and every which way we can do. But there's plenty of stuff to read on there, as well as our Hockey Stories series, long form, in-depth pieces with folk telling stories from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into World War II and beyond, players, officials, player agents, all sorts of movers and shakers in British hockey. The old BOTW podcast back catalogue is there, as well as Dice Hockey. It's a free to download game that you can get from the website bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. The other thing, of course, is this is the joy of YouTube. Hello, can we quickly all feed the algorithm hamster, please? And if you haven't already, check out the description below for the links to our Twitter, to Facebook, as well as to my virtual busking hat, which is over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. If you like what you see, like I say, just passing the busking hat around. Think of this like Covent Garden for hockey content. And if you want to chuck a few coins in, it's massively appreciated. It's just helping to kind of cover some costs of stuff that it takes to do all of this. But also as well, we're on YouTube. Whether you're watching live or watching back, you can please do hit the subscribe button, hit a like. It all power stuff, trying to get more subscribers. We broke 200 not long before the beginning of the season. Let's see if we can't get 300-400 people subscribed to a channel that's basically all about creating content around second, third and fourth tier British hockey. That'd be pretty crazy, wouldn't it? The other thing as well, and the joy of YouTube and doing a live show on YouTube, is we've got the chat over there. Hello. There's a few folk in the chat already. We've had people talking about and chucking in their thoughts as to what their dinner is this evening to start off things. But that is where you can throw in questions, comments, anything and everything you want to talk about as we're chatting away. All we ask is that if you are using the chat function, please remember the golden rule here at BOTW. DBAD. Don't be a dick. Be respectful of other people's thoughts and feelings as we go along. But yes, indeed. Plenty going on, plenty has happened in the last little while. Milton Keynes, of course, that we need to talk about a little bit in a moment, but they still currently 1-0 up between the Lightning and the Seahawks. But I think the one place we do need to start, obviously we do like to bounce around a little bit here on the What's Current stream. We'd like to talk about all the divisions of the NIHL structure, whether it, from Leeds to Lee Valley, we try and give everybody a fair shake, but we do need to head down to the West Country and talk about our friends in Swindon. And no, we are not talking about their Halloween jerseys, which, if that's your thing, fine. Does nothing for me, but I'm sure some folk will really, really like them. What we do know, of course, is that the recent issues with the Link Centre finds itself still closed, and this has meant that Swindon have had to pivot. And what it means is that they are back playing, and they do have a home game this coming Saturday, but it is home in inverted commas, because this Saturday's game, where they are at home against the Milton Keynes Lightning, will actually take place in the Thunderdome in Milton Keynes. The Lightning have very graciously agreed to shuffle some bits and pieces around, and the Cats' home game this coming Saturday will take place in MK. For those of you unaware, Cats fans have been told that they need to book blocks 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. One thing that's going to be very difficult, of course, for Swindon in this situation is to make Milton Keynes feel like home. Although if I was Swindon, I'd be doing absolutely everything I could to make that feel like a Cats night. Throw off everybody. No different announcers. Bring in all of your own people. If you can get MK out of their own changing room, do that as well. Throw the Lightning off. You need to make this as much of a home game as possible if you are Swindon. They do also as well have shuffled around another game, which is the following weekend. It was meant to be a home game against the Raiders, has been swapped around. The Cats were meant to originally be playing the Raiders at home on Saturday the 7th. That fixture has now been moved to Sunday the 4th of February 2024, and this game will be shuffled around for that one. So this will now be a Raiders home game at Sapphire Ice and Leisure. So Romford will now have a home double-header weekend, that weekend to the 7th and 8th of October. Massively, I did say during the week as well, the one thing that needed to be seen was what would the National Division do as an entity to kind of rally around? We're in this sort of in-between space where the National Division has announced its intention that it will step out away from the EIHA at the end of 23-24 to become a separate entity. And they've been met with this rather hefty challenge of not just the fact that obviously Basingstoke have stepped away because they were pulled out by the ownership, but that Swindon unable to be in their rink for seemingly a period of time. That period of time we do not know at this moment. What we do know from bits and pieces that were on ITV West Country News is that we are expecting an update later this week from GLL, the operators of the Link Centre, in terms of a time frame for getting things repaired. Now, obviously, this is a massive kick in the teeth for the Cats, because they had, we've talked about them on here. Yes, there's some questions about the defence, but good quality net mining in the form of Rennie Maher and Tyler Perry, and then you've got that attack, that forward power that they have, and you've basically got muted because they are picking up ice slots everywhere they can to train. They're not being able to play at home. Of course, they've only had one game, and even then they still managed to pull something out of it, so fair play to the Cats for that. We'll obviously talk about that in a little while as well. But what we're hopefully going to be able to see is eventually a bit more of a plan as to what's happening with the Link Centre. You think as well, this is a conversation that I've had with a couple of people, that obviously it was obviously discussed during the summer. The rink closed in Swindon for the summer. The operator spent, I believe it was £300,000 to do some upgrades to bits and pieces, and then beginning of the season, obviously, we had the issues with the balcony at Swindon, that there was the issues with an exterior staircase from a fire escape that meant that 120 seats were lost to the Cats for usage from the balcony. That was the talk, of course, in October, of increases in ticket prices in the balcony to cover the costs. And now the entire building is unusable. What's that going to mean for budgets for this season? Budgets going forward for next year? Have the Cats got proper insurance to cover some of these costs? Will building the insurance for the building cover some of these issues and be able to put some money back in the Cats' pocket so that they are not potentially handicapped going forward into next season? Now there was an article that was on the BBC website that came under the headline of "Swindon Link Centre closure like COVID challenge for club," was what was said there by at least it was a picture attached to Aaron Nell. The article on BBC News says Swindon Council has called for clarity from a leisure operator on what the future holds for the Link Centre. The town's main leisure centre is now closed for the foreseeable future due to damage caused by flash flooding a week ago. The ice hockey team based there promised it will survive, but warned of the difficult time ahead. A meeting between GL, Better and the council is due Wednesday morning. That was obviously today, and we've had a little bit of a word out there, but not an awful lot. I'm aware that Swindon Councillor Jim Grant has been very, very vocal about pushing GLL for a timeline and sort of what that means going forward. Obviously, the Cats. I mean, Aaron Nell said it in my interview with him over the summer that COVID sort of effectively, put a £37,000 hole in the finances of the Cats at the time. That experience from 2020 will help us get through. We know there is a lot being put into getting the Ice and building back as soon as possible, but with 75% of the club's income reliant on ticket sales, Nell warned of massive financial impact. The temporary loss of the link means all three of Swindon's main public leisure centres are now out of action. The famous Oasis closed in 2020, and even if plans to bring it back as successful, it's not expected until 2026. The Victorian Health Hydro in the town centre also closed earlier this year for its own programme of refurbishment. So Swindon is a town now with nothing in terms of proper sort of leisure provision at the moment because of either refurbishment, closure, or act of God at the moment. As you can see there, it's in the chat. We have it as well. Bobby Young from Bobby Chamberlain equalises 15-13 on the clock in Milton Keynes there, and 1-1 between two of the form sides in the division, between the Lightning and the Seahawks. But yeah, I mean, just a massive sort of, sending like good thoughts and good vibes towards everybody down there in Swindon at the moment. Now, obviously a club that I've got some really, really good friends who are connected to Swindon, and it's just, from somebody whose team have had their own rink issues for a while. And don't believe me, we're going to talk about that before the end of the show as well, because there's an article that's come out about that. But it's a real kick in the teeth for Cats fans as well. I know there was a bit of some questions obviously about the roster makeup, but some optimism about this year. Certainly that top six looked as good as anybody else in the division. 2-1 MK. Now, by the looks of that, that's come straight away on the power play. So there was a power play that was called on there pretty much straight away. Yes, indeed. Ross Venus from Dylan Lauren from Ed Nags. That gif of Venus is awful. That shirt is so big on him, it makes him look like a child. It's probably not the look you're going for on that one. But either way, 2-1 MK is the first draws towards its conclusion. Thank you, Scutsy, for chucking that one in the chat. But yeah, I've just really just feel a lot for Swindon. I see obviously fans. Sponsors are kind of rallying around. I saw one of their fans has sort of donated a generator so they could get some lighting, so they could go in and check their offices. One of their sponsors has kind of stumped up for a coach so that fans can get from Swindon to Milton Keynes for free on Saturday. That's really, really impressive. Really, really pleased to kind of see that not just, that people are starting to rally around, but like I say, we've had the league rally round. Teams have, made some swaps to kind of accommodate bits and pieces here. Sponsors are rallying round. I know, the local council's obviously starting to kick and scream a little bit. I'm aware that the local MP has written to the DCMS as well, Digital Culture, Media and Sports Secretary, about bits and pieces, to see what can possibly be leveraged at a national level. There's a lot going on. Obviously, and it remains to be seen just how quickly Swindon will be back in Swindon, doing their bits and pieces. And ultimately, even on the smallest of small levels here, the most important, the least of important things really, is just, what's this going to do in terms of impacting the Cats on the ice? What chance now Swindon to be a real title contender where they are staring down reduced budgets, reduced ice time at home, midweek games out of their eyeballs, and obviously the impact that will then have on budgets, because you don't get as much money through the gate on a Wednesday night as you do on a Saturday or a Sunday. That's just how it works with ice hockey at this level. And yeah, we are looking at an interesting situation for an organisation that's always been run financially very well. Of course, the Nell family own both the Swindon Wildcats and the last season's League and Playoff champion Leeds Knights. So what impact will this potentially... obviously, they are kind of run as sort of, in a large way, as sort of separate businesses, but they do have a singular back office function between the two. So what impact is this even going to have on the Knights in terms of a knock-on effect? And obviously, as well now, like even for Romford very graciously swapped around their fixtures, are now home twice in a weekend. Well, are people going to be able to afford to do both home games in a weekend? There's the brick has been chucked in the pond, but the ripples are going to have an impact kind of going forward and out of that. One thing we will do, though, we'll quickly have a quick smash through the National Division results, because, of course, everything kicked off last Friday night in Peterborough. And while Peterborough managed to, they shotgunned themselves in the foot there. Sizable lead at home against the Hull Seahawks, but it's Hull who come out with the opening win of the 2023-24 National Division campaign, a 6-5 win for the Hull Seahawks away in Peterborough. And then misery compounded the following night, of course, because Peterborough start the season with 2 defeats back-to-back nights. They have finished by the end of Saturday evening 0 for 2 for Slava Kuldakov's side. They lose 7-5 to the Bees in a real back and forth contest there. Of course, if you haven't, Joe Scott is in the chat. He commentates for the Bees. Him and Chris Beale were on the call on Saturday evening. The highlights are live, I want to say, Joe. I'm pretty certain the highlights are usually live by this point on a Wednesday, if you want to kind of catch up with the best of that game. So that should be fun. Yep, Kev, of course, in the chat. Peterborough fan, not a happy boy, not the best of starts. But there's one thing we've learned from many, many years of me writing, and for many, many years of me, the years we've been doing the What's Current stream now. You can't write off Peterborough. As soon as you write off Peterborough, they will make you look a mug. And that's unfortunately, that's generally how these bits and pieces go. Yes, good. The highlights are up from the Bees and the Phantoms. Elsewhere, it's the first of their home series for this weekend. Bristol, well, they get some goals against the Knights. They actually managed to get 3 past them, but a 7-3 win for the start of the title defence for Ryan Aldrich, Kieran Brown, and the Leeds Knights. Obviously, a little bit augmented. Some questions even then about their back end, but the Knights starting off in fine fettle as they put the Pitbulls to the sword over at Cribbs Causeway. MK, who are playing right now, a lot of people, me included, had a lot of good things to say about the Raiders during the off-season, but MK, not a jot, do not care, just smashing through the Raiders by 6-1. Potty missing the entire second line, defensive pairing need a shuffle, no need to panic. Exactly, there's no reason to be down on things after 2 games by any stretch. But MK with a big statement to start the season. And then, of course, our friends in the north, the first ever competitive fixture at the second tier for the Solway Sharks, and they end up falling by 4-2 on their big opening night. The Telford Tigers, of course, who had a really, really rocky 22-23 and then really sort of had a massive upswing towards the end of the season, making it to Coventry in the end by beating MK. But the Tigers Rafters under new captain Scott McKenzie come out with the 4-2 win on Saturday evening. Then led into Sunday, and well, as we talked about them, the Swindon Wildcats, they get a point on the road despite having had no real ice to train on. 8 players at their training session that they had in Cardiff before they went up there, and really a backs to the walls kind of effort from the Wildcats. They get to overtime, but they drop the shootout decision. The Hull Seahawks go 2 for 2 on opening weekend, which is I can't remember how many 4-point weekends they had last year. I don't think it was more than 3, but that's a 4-point weekend off the bounce for Hull. Leeds then, having beaten Bristol relatively soundly down in Bristol, it's a shutout for Sam Gospel in the home opener for the Leeds Knights. 5-0 starter there for the Knights at home. Solway then had one of their longest away trips of the season on Sunday, all the way down to Romford to take on the Raiders, and a 4-2 win for Sean Easton's side. They recover from the drubbing they got the night before. A 0-point weekend to start things off for Martin Grubb. The first competitive loss for the Sharks as a club since October 2022 this weekend. They did not lose after, I believe it's the second weekend of October. I want to say it was about the 9th of October last year was the last time prior to this weekend where Solway lost a competitive fixture. But this is what we talked about. Solway stepping up. They've wanted the challenge. They've now got the challenge, and they now need to find a way to put points on the board in this new era for them. We will skip down one, of course, because a real back and forth crazy game in Shropshire between the Telford Tigers and the Bees. Bees go 4-0 up in this game. Telford score 6 unanswered goals to go 6-4 up against their visitors. But the Bees come back, they tie the game, and then a few seconds into overtime, I want to say it was 38. It was either 23 or 38. My brain's scattered with numbers. But head coach Dom Gabai with the all important goal puts the Bees over the line. Telford get a 3-point weekend. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. But as we head into the first weekend of the season being done, 2 teams that we didn't really expect to do an awful lot with maximum points off of the weekend. Obviously, Hull and the Bees not very, very high up anybody's list in terms of the predictions. I do not make predictions in terms of this team X is going to finish in position Y. But my floor and my ceiling for both Hull and Bees, the ceiling was not super high. For me, looking at their rosters they put together, the best we were going to get out of these sides with mid-table. Well, they've started very well. The trick, though, of course, in this division has always been, whether it's Leeds, whether it's Telford, in terms of the teams that win trophies, consistency is key. Can they do it week in, week out? Well, they did it 2 nights across the weekend. 16th of October. Thank you, Joe. I thought I've gone a week early there, haven't I? But yeah, Bees and Hull with the massively good start there. And then we do need to talk about the game that was in Sheffield on Sunday. The Steeldogs, of course, without their Saturday fixture, because they were due to be down in Swindon, and that game, of course, did not take place because of the issues with the Link Centre. But all eyes were on Ice Sheffield for that 4:30 face-off this past Sunday, and the jersey retirement of the sadly departed Alex Graham, number 21, to the rafters of the Bauer Arena at Ice Sheffield. Number 21, not to be worn again in Steeldogs history. A massive pat on the back to every Steeldogs player for going out and playing off the back of that one. A 5-3 win for MK in that game, and I mean, the fact that the Steeldogs were able to even, to sort of be able to control their emotions enough to be able to kind of play in that sort of circumstance is a credit to them, a credit to themselves and their organisation. I mean, the Steeldogs over the years have always been an organisation that maybe have been people have made jokes about, because a lot of us remember the Andre Payet days where it was the dogs were felt like they were there to do one thing and one thing only, or maybe you just didn't like the way they play. And there's obviously discussions about what's happened during the summer, but for one night everything could kind of get put to one side. It was about playing the game that we all love. Alex Graham was a tremendously exciting player to watch, talented beyond what most of us could dream of, a shot release well above his years, and we unfortunately Alex Graham is now confined to our memories and highlights on YouTube, but he was a player who made people smile, and that game in Sheffield appears to have been played in that kind of Alex Graham spirit, full bore, going at it, going for the win. No sort of fluffing around, no mess, no nonsense. Alex Graham was a player who played, and he played well, and he tried to play everything with a bit of flash and a bit of a twinkle in his eye. And we can only hope that wherever he was watching, that he had a really good view and that he really enjoyed himself. He may not have liked the result at the end of the day. I'm sure wherever he's keeping tabs that that he would have wanted his boys to win, but not to be on the day. Sheffield have to dust themselves down, pick themselves back up, and move on. But just a tremendous tribute to a superb young player that our sport and our British hockey community will miss very, very deeply. Thoughts, love, light to everybody up in Sheffield. I hope you're doing okay. And it was it's a good, not a great result. Obviously, no one likes to lose, but a good showing against what are going to be a title contending team by every stretch this year. So just hope everybody up in Sheffield keep chins up. Keep going, everything will kind of come out in the wash and everything will be okay, and he's keeping a good eye on you wherever he may be. Either way, if we quickly, what we'll do is we'll quickly skip back, just have a quick scoot at the fixtures, because what we want to do, oh no, I've pressed the wrong button there, buttons, so many buttons, so many transitions by mistake. What we'll do then is we'll just have a quick look at what's upcoming for this week in the NIHL National Division. Of course, MK and Hull are their game as well. It's paused now because it's obviously hit the end of the first period. MK leading by 2-1 at the moment against the Hull Seahawks at the end of the first period in MK. Saaz joining us live from the rink in period break in MK. Both teams are very solid. Hull seem to like spending time in the box, and some of those calls were soft. Well, we'll talk about some some officiating calls in a little while when we get to South 1. But either way, let's have a quick scoot forward to Saturday, the 30th of September, this upcoming weekend, and a fair few games. 6:30 p.m. face-off on Saturday. The Leeds Knights at home. It's a repeat of the cup final from last year. Last year's cup winners, the Peterborough Phantoms, travelled to the league and playoff winning Leeds Knights at the Castle for 6:30. 7 p.m. face-offs then down in the southwest. Bristol take on the Bees. And of course, we are going to get Swindon versus Milton Keynes in what's the name we're going for here? Because I've had Swilton Keynes, North Swindon, or as somebody suggested to me, calling it the Missing Link Centre on Saturday evening. Also a 7 p.m. face-off up in Shropshire for the Telford Tigers against Raiders. And then there's 7:30 p.m. face-off, the first competitive visit of the Solway Sharks to Ice Sheffield Steel Dogs and Solway at 7:30 p.m. Fake news, no way has he written that from PIMK. Wi-Fi signal is non-existent. And then Sunday the 1st of October, 4 p.m. face-off at the Dumfries Ice Bowl for the Solway Sharks and the Sheffield Steel Dogs. 5:15 p.m. face-off over at Sapphire Ice and Leisure for the Raiders against Swindon. 5:30 p.m. face-offs at the World's Most Versatile Arena. Hull versus Telford and Peterborough versus Bristol. And then I've left it till last. It's a 5 p.m. face-off at the Hangar between the Bees and the Leeds Knights, where you can join the voices of Joe Scott and Muggins here on the call for on the live stream for the Bees and the Knights. Yes, as Joe is going through this sort of rotating, it's almost like the drummers in Spiral Tap. He gets one and then they sort of explode or fall off the stage, and he gets somebody new the week after. But it will be me joining Joe on the call for the Bees and the Knights in Slough this Sunday. Face-off is 5 p.m. At Bees Ice Hockey for all of your links to the stream if you enjoy. Joe, whilst Joe is my friend and I've known Joe for a very, very long time, he's one of the best at this in the country. There is not much an argument on that, I would venture. So I'm very honoured and humbled to be allowed back in the box. I had a great time doing what I did up in Coventry. The chance to call something in a different rink is something I've been wanting to do this year. Thanks to Joe and the Beast for having me along. Let's just hope that both teams put on a show. But it's two teams, of course, heading into this weekend with perfect records. So you never know. If they both get wins on Saturday night, we could be in for a real humdinger come Sunday at the Slough Ice Arena. Get your tickets if you're coming down, or if you just want to stay at home and want some hockey to watch, join Joe and myself, and we will endeavour to put on a show for you. You'd like to argue that, but it's my show, so shut up, Scutsy. Also be nice, because I'm giving you a lift. But yeah, that's the National Division. We're not going to bother looking at the table for the National Division, because after two games for most teams, one game for some teams, and two and a bit if you're Milton Keynes or Hull, we're not going to bother with that right now. But yeah, the National Division, what a great opening weekend, I think. Exciting. Some results we probably weren't expecting. Obviously, a bit of a kick in the teeth. Solway are learning fast and having to learn fast just what it is like. I think it's good that Solway have managed to get some goals scored. They've clearly got something there. What it is about now, it's just that little bit of nous and that little bit of savvy are operating at this level for those guys who are not used to it. They're a new team kind of coming together, lots of different constituent parts, guys who were in the Elite League, who've dropped down, people like Stenton, Mackenzie, Dunbar, who aren't used to playing it. Mason Alderson's not played in Britain for quite some time, and you've got those guys, that sort of that old guard for Callum Hepburn, Struan Tonner, Ross Murray, those guys who've now stepped up into the National Division. There's a lot of moving parts in Solway. They're going to get there just fine. And, Sheffield, that's a tough ask in terms of a team to try and get your first win against. But this is a season of consolidation and trying to punch up, I think, if you're Solway. Obviously, I know a lot of people thought they were going to go gangbusters. I said top half is probably their ceiling this year. So let's kind of see what we get from that. Elsewhere, though, of course, MK looking really, really strong. Swindon, we can't really say much. We can't say much about. And Sheffield, well, chins of steel, I think, is probably what we can say about our friends from Ice Sheffield on that front. Questions, comments, anything you want to chuck into the chat, then please, of course, do feel free. Going to sort of try and keep tabs of bits and pieces as we go along. Just making sure there's no news very, very quickly as we scart along. The one thing we will touch on, though, before we scoot to the onto the other divisions, of course, is the news regarding Basingstoke that was today in the Basingstoke Gazette. I'm very, very quickly just going to pull up on my phone just so I can kind of read this out, because there was an article earlier today in the Basingstoke Gazette that comes under the somewhat depressing headline of Basingstoke Ice Rink future uncertain as upgrade plans stall. This is from one of the local journalists, a chap by the name of Kieran Sajan. The fate of Basingstoke's beloved ice rink remains in question, leaving the local community, including the Bison team, ice hockey enthusiasts and figure skaters in a state of uncertainty. Plans for the rink's much anticipated upgrade, initially announced in April 2023, or admittedly was actually announced in May 2022 when Planet Ice announced their intention to buy back the lease and refurbish the building, have hit a standstill, reportedly due to a disagreement between leaseholder Standard Securities and Planet Ice, the rink's operator. Planet Ice confirmed in April that the Basingstoke Bison ice hockey team would be forced to skip the 23-24 season as a result of the upgrade programme. The original plan was to assemble a team to compete in the 24-25 season once the renovation work was completed. However, nearly 5 months after the announcement, work has yet to commence, leaving the community anxious about the future of the rink. Stuart Tempest, chair of the Basingstoke Junior Bison, expressed his frustration, saying that this has been ongoing now for over 5 years. Quote, 5 years of the rink becoming more and more dilapidated, he said. The stalemate should have been resolved years ago by the previous council administration enforcing the terms of the head lease with Standard Securities. Recent discussions with current council leader Paul Harvey have given us a bit more confidence the current administration have a bit more about them and that they are moving the situation forward with a bit more pace. What should be in the forefront of everyone's minds is how long it will take to repair the rink and what measures can be put in place to provide ice for all the young athletes competing at all levels and disciplines out of the rink. A closure of more than 6 months without temporary ice provision would mean an end of ice hockey development in Basingstoke and the loss of many national level ice skaters. Sally Cashman, chair of the Basingstoke Ice Rink Users Forum, shared similar concerns, emphasising the impact of delays on the rink's deteriorating condition and rising costs. The situation regarding the ice rink is heartbreaking for all users, she said. It's both extremely frustrating and annoying that the two parties involved cannot come to an agreement so that the repairs can start. All the time there is a delay. The state of the rink worsens and costs increase. It is a dreadful situation. Planet Ice Chief Operations Officer Heath Rhodes declined to comment on the ongoing delay. Meanwhile, Council Leader Paul Harvey assured the community they are actively engaged in addressing the situation. Basically, not great news because, again, the trouser snake swinging continues. I said on my social media earlier that it is a disgrace. I stand by that. This is the cultural legacy, the sporting legacy, and a massive community asset being left to just become even worse because people can't agree. They're arguing pence on the pound, and that is frustrating beyond all belief. The more that time goes on, the less likely we are to see the Basingstoke Bison in the 24-25 NIHL National Division season because there will just not be time for the Bison to have a rink in a ready condition where they can compete properly in the National Division, and that will fall solely and squarely on the shoulders of those arguing rather than getting on with doing the work that needs to be done. And it's not just the Bison, it will be the Buffalo, the juniors, the synchro teams, ice dancers, ice skaters, and basically anyone who wants somewhere and something to do. What's that we got there in the chat? Just out of interest, can refs refuse to let a team play if lines can't be seen? So the referee would have at his discretion the ability to say that the game isn't safe to be played if the rink wasn't safe. The lines, because you should have markings on the boards, so you would have the ability to have a judgment of offside. You'd have the ability to have a judgment of, because you'd have goals and where the goals go in, you'd have the ability to judge that. So could they? Yes. It's incredibly unlikely that would happen in British hockey, it must be said. I am yet to see a game not go ahead because of that. And I watched hockey in Basingstoke for a long time. I've had many games where the lines have been, incredibly faint, all things considered. Either way, the National Division we put to one side as we have a quick look up north into North 1. And a busy weekend, actually, unusually compared to last year. Busy Saturday in North 1. But some very close, very, very tight games. Blackburn, who've looked pretty decent to start the year so far, they go down by 5-4 at home against Billingham. Billingham have had a couple of wobbles early, had a wobble early on, losing to Hull, but a good solid road win there against the Hawks. The Hull Jets themselves, putting D-side to the sword by 4-1 at the world's most versatile arena. Not been a brilliant start for the Dragons. Struggled for scoring, struggled to stop goals from going out. The Sheffield Scimitars, who certainly we'll definitely talk about one of their results in a short moment, but a 5-3 loss at home to the Solihull Barons for the Shims at Sheffield, and then Saturday seeing a pretty decent win for the Whitley Warriors to continue their good start to the year. 4-1 they beat Widnes by at Hillhead. Then on Sunday, the Warriors travelling down to North Wales, a 4-2 win. The Dragons yet to get a point on the board. Whitley perfect through 5 games in the division. And then the Scimitars, who only got 1 point last year with a 4-3 win in Nottingham against the Lions. So the Scimitars have doubled their points total for 23-24 compared to last year in the space of a couple of weekends. So shout out to the Shims for that one there. Billingham, though, they fall at Hobbsmoat Road, a 4-3 win for the Barons against the Stars. Billingham, who had such a good year last year, a real resurgent year where they arguably punched above their weight in some quarters, but they've dropped a couple of games early on here against sides that you might have anticipated that they would have beaten, but they lose on the road to the Barons, a big win there for the Midlands side. And then Blackburn thoroughly put Widnes to the sword. Widnes, who had Harrison Walker, leads his regular backup in goal for that game, but a sizable win there for the Hawks, who have really started off the league season well. And of course, a very busy year for Blackburn, not only competing in the in NIHL 1, but also competing in this new Northern League with the teams out of the SNL. So lots of fixtures happening in Blackburn, lots of games of hockey to be played for the Lancashire side. But a 5-0 win, and given some of the attacking prowess that they've got, should be very could Blackburn be dark horses for the league title come the end of the year? Remains to be seen, but such results are going to stand them in good stead. Winning 5-0 on the road is pretty good, although not the biggest away win of the weekend in Division 1. Saturday then, we're back to our usual in North 1. There's not much happening at all. The Nottingham Lions are at home 1:20 on Saturday against the Billingham Stars. Given that time, I would assume that's probably on the big pad at the NIC. And then a 5:30 face-off for the Jets. They welcome the Whitley Warriors to the world's most versatile arena. Sunday then, Sunday 5 p.m. face-off over in Hillheads. It's the first big derby of the season. The Warriors and the Stars, the North East, goes to war this coming Sunday in Whitley Bay. 5 p.m. face-off in North Wales for the Deeside Dragons and the Solihull Barons as the Dragons look to get some points on the board. 6 p.m. face-off in Blackburn. The Hawks welcome the Sheffield Scimitars fresh off their win in Nottingham last week. And the Lions themselves will be back at home. A 2 home game weekend for Matt Bradbury's side. They take on the Widnes Wild on Sunday at 7:20. Woo, another arena game, says Mr. Gadsby. Yes, indeed, you are back in the arena for the Lions. That's game 2 of 5, I believe, for the Lions on the big ice this year. That should be an interesting encounter. Obviously, getting the bigger sides on the big pad, which fair play to them for doing so on that one. And then we get into South 1, which of course was where South 1. Where I've been for the last couple of weeks, because of course I was meant to be in Swindon on Saturday evening for the Cats and the Dogs. That of course didn't come to pass, so I took the opportunity to head up the A34 from Southampton to Oxford and the Oxford City Stars on Sunday. We'll talk about that in a minute. But of course, we had some games on Saturday. One of the first Essex derbies of the year, seeing the Chelmsford Chieftains run out with a comfortable 5-1 win against the Romford Buccaneers over at Sapphire Ice and Leisure. And then the other game from Saturday was a real humdinger of a game, what turned out to be the Jack Goodchild show from the Slough Jets. The young man going 4+1, including a last-minute game winner from the former Swindon Wildcat, as the Jets fly out of Solent with a 6-4 win down there in Gosport. Again, another cracking game down on the south coast. Both of Solent's home games so far have been a real from all concerned. Certainly, I was at the game against Invicta. That was great. Every report I've had so far from this game against Slough was that it was a great game too. And Jack Goodchild showing at this level. One of the questions I had about Slough was volume of goals. Not that they'd struggle to score, but would they be able to get enough goals? Well, if you've got guys like Goodchild being able to put 4 up by himself, that top line for the Jets of Jack Goodchild and the two Moore brothers, Christian and Sebastian, it's pretty. If teams don't shut down that top line, as Ben Hyde from Zero Pucks Given called them, the Holy Trinity. If no one can shut them down, teams are going to really struggle against Slough this year. And then Sunday, controversy in Invicta. The Dynamos with a 4-3 win against Chelmsford. The video has been doing the rounds, the game-winning goal, and whether it should have been called back for goaltender interference. Now, for me, it looks pretty barn door that Stanislav Laschek has quite clearly interfered with Jordan Lawday here. He skated, the netminder is in his crease. He has made contact on the netminder's stick with his skate. He's made contact on the netminder's helmet with his elbow, has spun Lawday around. The netminder is established in his crease. The contact was not incidental. It's been initiated by the forward inside the crease. The netminder has not been given the opportunity to make a save. The goal, for me, should not have stood. Now, we have to give some benefit of the doubt, of course, to the official, because we're all watching a piece of video slowed down from a static location. The official is moving around, blood pumping, adrenaline pumping. It's the last moments of a really exciting, really tense local derby. Nobody is perfect. What I hope from that moment, though, is that the officials had the opportunity to look back at that goal and be able to kind of see the mistake that has been made there. Because I can't sugarcoat that. The goal should not stand. It shouldn't stand. and because there is a really clear infraction of the rules there. Stanislav Lajcek should have been given a 2-minute goaltender interference penalty because he has encroached in the crease and made contact with the netminder and stopped him making the save. The thing, of course, is that the game doesn't happen in slow motion. The game happens at full speed, and we've got 6 foot, 200-pound people with knife shoes and a weapon in their hands flying around. No one's going to get it perfect. You only lose if you don't learn the lesson. My sincere hope is that the official from that game has had a chance to look back at this, realised the mistake, and we were able to kind of move on from it from there. The other games on Sunday then, a win, two sides that people, including myself, predicted towards the bottom of the table, but a big win for the MK Thunder, 5-3 win against the Romford Buccaneers. And then Oxford. The full write-up from my perspective is there over on bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. The Slough Jets with a 6-0 win over the Oxford City Stars. The Stars with a record attendance in, record numbers of tickets sold, record numbers of merch done, a really, really packed building. My first time in Oxford as well, a fantastic atmosphere, and the Stars fluffed their lines, unfortunately. They just absolutely just couldn't get going. They struggled a little bit in the early going because they took a few daft penalties, but the forecheck never got established. They just couldn't get their legs going, and the Jets just found a little bit of space and scored, and then they just kept chipping away at that crack and eventually blew wide open. A hat-trick for Seb Moore, a shutout for Brett Massey as well in this game. That top line again of the Jets, of the two Moores and Jack Goodchild, looking almost indestructible. As I said though, my concern for Slough is what happens when a team finds a way to shut down that top line. What happens then? Who are people like Lewis English, Ollie Hemmings-Mayer? Are they able, the depth that Slough have, are they able to step up and provide that level of secondary scoring? Because we know what Christian Moore, what Sebastian Moore, what Jack Goodchild can do. That started the year as deadly as any line in the division. But what happens when on the nights they don't fire? That's going to be the big question for the Jets going forward. Anyway, this upcoming weekend in South One, only a couple of games on Saturday, but 5:15 p.m. over at Sapphire Ice and Leisure, the Romford Buccaneers and the Invicta Dynamos for the first time this year, and then at the Hangar, the Slough Jets and the Chelmsford Chieftains. That game could steal the show of the entire weekend across the NIHL. Really interested to see what happens in that one. And then on Sunday, a few games, 5:45 over in Gillingham for Invicta versus Slough, another one that promises to be a cracker. 6 o'clock at the Riverside for the Chelmsford Chieftains and the Romford Buccaneers, and then 6:15 p.m. face-off up at the Ox Pens for the City Stars and the Solent Devils. News then I can see out of Milton Keynes. The Lightning go 3-1 ahead through Ross Venus, but a goal from Emil Svek, a man with who's a fan of all household products, to make it to get them back within a puncher's distance of catching the Lightning there. 3-2 there with 26 minutes on the having passed on the clock. Certainly, like I say, Oxford. If you've not been to Oxford, I'd really recommend you, if you get the opportunity to go. The photo I've taken, I've tried to describe it and tried to do it justice, but the pad is very much kind of sunk into the ground. There's a bottom level where kind of people kind of operate on, but the seating is all raised up, and there's a walkway around the top of it in like a big sort of U shape, because one end is just a wall with a scoreboard on it. And it's just such an interesting experience. It's very, very reminiscent of a few rinks I've been to in Germany, because you're kind of stood or sat and you're very much sort of looking over the top and looking down onto the action, and it gives a really interesting closeness. Gosport is claustrophobic because it's so small and everybody's so pressed together, and like the away team walking in front of the stand to get onto the ice, like that is close. But this is a sort of a closeness of perspective kind of thing in Oxford, and it makes for a really interesting exercise. There's also no plexi in Oxford; it's all netting as well, so that element of feeling like you're able to kind of sort of reach out and touch what's going on is much greater there. obviously not the two biggest rinks. The thing with Oxford as well is the perspective makes it look so weird. It makes it look really, really wide. But I was talking to Ryan Cathcart, one of the Basingstoke junior system head coaches, father of Ty and Roman, and he said actually, like, compared to some of the other places, Anthony, it's not wide at all. It just looks like that because of how everything, because of how sort of the rink is kind of laid out. But if you've not had the opportunity to go to Oxford, I'd really recommend going. Certainly what Shane Moore and the City Stars are trying to do in terms of making, putting on a good show, making stuff there, is admirable, and that's what clubs should obviously be trying to do. I realise that there's a bit of a change of direction for Oxford, but they've upped their social media presence. They've been a bit more open to folk like myself and Nicky Watt coming along and the like. But the actual environment is pretty fun. It's pretty good, and it's just different. It's just a different way of watching hockey, and I think it's if you get the opportunity, you should do it. 4-2 MK. I mean, we always knew there'd be goals. It's a Milton Keynes Lightning game, and they do like scoring. Callie Robertson with the goal there. Robertson from Venus from Nags. Another point on the night for Ross Venus, who seems to be adapting well to his new life in the NIHL National Division. I don't know anybody else. If anybody else has got their Twitter open and looking at the GIFs going on here, those gloves for MK are just not very nice looking at all. Power play goal there as well for the Lightning. I make that their second one of the night as well. We'll then quickly scoot our way on into North 2 because time is obviously ticking on. We do need to kind of smash our way through the rest of the results that are going on. If you're not familiar with North 2, of course, only the 8 teams. Quite a compressed sort of not so much of a compressed schedule. Everything's sort of quite spaced out. But they don't have tons and tons of games on the weekend, but a couple from the weekend. And, well, the weekend, and so far, it's kind of been the story of the Sutton Sting. The Sting have been on a really good run of form. Pushed to the limit in their local derby on Saturday, though, against the Sheffield Titans. The Sting winning that one in the shootout. So the Titans able to pick up a point, but not able to get past the early pace setters. And then a good solid win at home for the Coventry NIHL Blaze. They beat the Billingham Buccaneers by 3-1 in the Sky Dome. The Blaze then get themselves a 4-point weekend, a 3-1 win in Altrincham over the Aces. Now, it was the Blaze were chasing the Aces' tail at the back of the last season in terms of trying to qualify for that last playoff spot in the North 2 playoffs. Didn't quite get there, but a good solid result there for the NIHL Blaze. And then a shutout for the Sheffield Titans, a 2-0 win for them over Billingham. In Billingham at the Forum on Sunday. Not the greatest of starts to the season for this Buccaneers side, but they're the brand new development team in Billingham. For those of you not familiar, it's all very much about sort of establishing themselves, getting themselves used to league hockey. This is what that Buccaneers side is going to be. A good win as well for the Bradford Bulldogs. They win by 6-3 at home against the Nottingham Lions, second team there. And as we said, it's been a weekend for the Sting. Another 4 points for them. A 7-1 win over the Kingston Sharks, that new team in Hull, putting the Sting very much in control. 14 goals on the weekend. I make that 22 goals for the Sting in their last 3 games, if you include the extra goal given for that shootout win. Upcoming this weekend then in North 2, just the one game on Saturday. That'll be at the Sky Dome. The NIHL Blaze of Coventry taking on the Bradford Bulldogs, and then a few games on Sunday. 12:30pm face-off at the world's most versatile arena. The Kingston Sharks taking on the Coventry Blaze. A 5:10pm face-off over at Sheffield for the Sheffield Titans against the title favourites, the Telford Tigers. And then a 5:30pm face-offs in Bradford. The Bulldogs take on the Sutton Sting, and the Billingham Buccaneers will take on the Altrincham Aces. All the teams in North 2 in action this coming Sunday. We pause briefly again just to check that nothing has happened in the game there. They have now changed. I see they've changed the second goal for Hull. It's now set from Bartholomew from Nathan Salem, so fair play. But yeah, 4-2 with 30 minutes gone in Milton Keynes. The Lightning, 4 goals to the good. Ben Solder, 2 for Ross Venus, 1 for Callie Robertson. Goals for the Seahawks there at the moment from Young and sec. I'm going to have a quick swig of water again. I don't know what it is at the moment. I think I don't know about where you're watching from, but a lot of bugs been going around recently, and although my only thing is that I just seem to get a bit of a dry throat the entire time. I've had an unwell wife, I've had an unwell son, but I seem to have. But I just seem to sort of get a bit of a dry throat and then somehow manage to sort of scuttle by everything for the most part, so fair play. Andrew there, I know Leeds fan base very far up north. Working this weekend, so no trip to Leeds, but I might walk round to the forum to watch the Buccaneers. I'd be massively... I mean, if you want to go and give us a report back here next week, Andrew, I think I'd certainly appreciate it. I'm interested to see what sort of hockey the Buccaneers are playing, what they're putting on, because it's obviously quite hard for a lot of us. See that quite a lot of Southern-based people I know in the chat, quite a lot of Midlands-based people in the chat. So, knowledge is power, knowledge is good. So the ability to kind of know and hear about what's going on there would be appreciated. I would certainly like to. I'd certainly be interested to hear what the Buccaneers are like. Oh, good, you're ill and I'm trapped in the car with you. No, I'm not ill. I have a dry throat. That's a different thing. If I was ill, you'd know, because I don't shut up about it. I'm not very good at being ill. I'm one of those people who gets ill, drives himself into the ground, and then I'm just like that. I think it's also, I might just have a dry throat because I'm just talking so much, but yeah, that's my sin. Either way, South 2. We do need to talk about our friends in South 2 as well, because there was a fair bit of action from this past weekend. Bristol were 5-1 up on Saturday night in Basingstoke against the Buffalo. The Buffalo pulled themselves back to 5-4, but last year's league champions finally get themselves a win on the board with a 5-4 win in Hampshire. A big win though for the Invicta Mustangs, last year's playoff champions. Didn't get a great result last weekend, but a 9-3 win in Gillingham over the Streatham Blackhawks, who were quite handily put to the sword. That's the second time in a couple of weeks that the Blackhawks have shipped 9 goals in a game. And then on Saturday, the oddest result of all of them. When you think of last weekend, the Cardiff Fire scored 18 goals. They won 12-0 at home against Lee Valley. They then lost 7-6 on 7-6 to the Solent Junior Devils. And this week they win 1-0 away. Not bad statistics all in all, getting points all over the place at the moment, the Cardiff Fire. But to win a game 1-0 when you scored double-digit goals, you're scoring 20 goals last weekend in 120 minutes, and this time they score 1. A defensive masterclass from both sides, apparently, in South 2, but it's the Cardiff Fire who come out of Peterborough with the points. The Phantoms left scratching their heads and shut out on home ice. Games then on Sunday. Bristol built on their good result on Saturday, putting the Oxford Rising Stars to the sword 10-4, getting a bit more into their groove, having not won coming into this weekend, then getting 2 wins in 2 days, which is the sort of thing that the league champions will be looking for. The Lee Valley Lions putting up a pretty spirited display against the Haringey Huskies, but the Huskies with a 4-2 win in the sort of Northern London derby. The big saw a photograph, of course, of a few people in the stands. The question, of course, being, where did they all park? And did they get a ticket, as I'm aware that certain members of the Chelmsford Warriors got from their little visit to Lee Valley recently. But the Blackhawks, like I said, a bit of a rotten time for them recently, but they do get themselves a win in the win column. They win by 5-1 on the high road against the Solent Junior Devils. If you're connected to gospel hockey, you must be sick of Streatham by now, given the fact that the results against any Streatham side for anybody from gospel seem to be few and far between. Either way, then that means we do have some games upcoming this weekend. A few on Saturday, 5:45 p.m. face-off for the South 2 derby of the Little Brothers. The Invicta Mustangs take on the Chelmsford Warriors. What was a game that should have been played last season and ultimately not played and resulted in Bristol winning the title. But the Peterborough Phantoms 2 take on the Bristol Pitbulls 2 at 6:30, and down in Gosport, it's the A3 derby between the Solent Junior Devils and the Guildford Phoenix. The Phoenix back on the ice after not playing this past weekend. Sunday then, Cardiff Fire take on the Peterborough Phantoms. Will we get more than one goal between the two sides this coming week in Cardiff Bay? That's at 6:45. Lee Valley are at home. It's North London versus South London as the Lions take on the Streatham Blackhawks. That is the only other game on Sunday in South 2. That means we have waddled our entire way through the entirety of the NIHL structure. All 5 divisions covered, everything chatted about. We have made our way through. Questions, comments, anything anybody wants to chuck in the chat. Of course, when we get to this point, we just say we open the doors, open forum, whatever you want to talk about in the chat, throw it in. Let's have a few bits and pieces out. Out about it. Just seeing that the Calgary Flames have signed Mikael Backlund to a 2-year, $4.5 million extension. It's a hard life sometimes, isn't it? Just checking around for other bits of news. I do see here as well a tweet that's been ended up in my thing from the Save Oasis Swindon campaign. Link update. It just featured live on ITV. This is from a couple of hours ago. Councillor who attended the meeting said there should be a timescale announcement on Friday. Also reaffirmed numerous times the link won't be closing. What I do like as well is that there's a Conservative councillor who responded with, "We were told updates today. What's happened since?" To which the Save Oasis Swindon campaign responded with, "You know more than we do." which does amuse me for the fact that that when councillors try to make political capital out of such things, particularly as my understanding was that again that Swindon, like Basingstoke, had a Conservative council for a long time who did not seem particularly active or interested in leisure as an activity for people. So we muse through stroked beards and contemplative sighs, I think, on that one. But yes, like I say, questions, comments, anything anybody wants to chuck in. Of course, NHL pre-season ongoing. Devon Levi seems to be pressing a case in Buffalo for the Sabres. Very, very interesting looking keeper. Did watch a little bit of him last year in the NCAA. Very was very, very highly regarded. What I find interesting about him, watching him last year, when he was playing, was he just seems to. He's one of those keepers who appears to be able to sort of flop and flap about, but somehow looks very, very calm. Very, very calm doing it. He spent the last couple of years with Northeastern University, in the NCAA. So very, very good school, very, very good conference, very, very highly regarded. Yes, he was and I'd forgotten this. He was actually a Florida Panthers draft pick, and he was traded to the Sabres in the deal that bought Sam Reinhart to Florida. Strong start of the season for Litvinov, which has to be a positive for Liam Kirk going forwards. Yeah, they seem to be doing very, very well so far. Not a big watcher of Czech hockey, I do have to confess, but obviously keeping tabs on Liam because everybody's keeping tabs on Liam, but he seems to have started out relatively well. Our friend from commenting on the formerly Conservative-run council for fear of breaking the TBAD rule. I've had my say on the previous Conservative administration in Basingstoke and their attitude towards things. So I feel like you're not being a dick if you're true. Are the NCAA coming over to Belfast this year? They are not, is my understanding, Andrew. No, I think they're having a year off of that, is my understanding. The hope is to bring it back again the year after, but not confirmed at this time. But no Beanpot tournament for in Belfast this year, as far as I'm aware. Thoughts on Manchester signing former NHL defenseman Joe Morrow? Great for Manchester. Great for the Elite League, really, to get players of a higher caliber in. He's an NHLer at least in the sense that he's played like over 100 games. So it's much more that he's not a cup of coffee in the show kind of guy. interesting to see why he's in Manchester. I believe he only played 1 or 2 games actually last year, which to me screams injury. And so there's the Manchester is a chance to kind of re-cement yourself and kind of push on. I mean, the Elite League has many faults and many foibles, but it is a good kind of stepping stone league to go into continental Europe, whether it be towards the Ice Liga, whether it be towards Slovakia, whether it be towards France, whether it be towards DEL or DL2, to Denmark. If Morrow's NHL tenure is kind of over, then the ability of young Canadians and young Americans to make good money playing in continental Europe, I'd be very, very surprised. The interesting thing is just how well does he start and does he stay fit? Because the big issue for Manchester will be keeping a guy of that calibre if he starts really just becoming too good for the league. But the thing with Morrow, like I say, is he does not appear to have played a lot of games in the last little while. A season at a place like Manchester where you can go and you can dominate, and it's not, I don't want to do Manchester a disservice, but Morrow now becomes a big fish in a small pond on a roster like Manchester that is not the strongest and is not the deepest of pocket. So getting a guy like him who's probably taken a bit of a bit of a dip in pay to come and re-establish himself as a guy who can play 40, 50, 60 games in a season and play for 15, 20, 22 minutes a night kind of thing. But it's good for Manchester. Long term for the Elite League. If they're set on having 15 imports, then it's fine. It remains an unsustainable thing in my opinion. But good for Joe Morrow. Joe Morrow's there. You make hay while the sun shines. Manchester is an attractive place to live. It is, yeah. I mean it's the. When you see some of the places in North America where they kind of have hockey teams, you kind of make the best of what you're given. Manchester is a vibrant European city with lots of culture going on. If he clicks in the EIHL, given this guy who played 150 plus NHL games and scored a playoff goal, yeah, exactly. So he's got that there. Joe, maybe you'll check it out more often this year. Ha ha! I mean, I can appreciate that level of pun, but I've got a lot of DL and a lot of Austrian and a lot of Swiss hockey to watch as well. The thing I find with watching hockey from overseas is that if I struggle with the commentary and I can't just sort of get myself into a rhythm, then I kind of struggle with it. But one of the things with German hockey, of course, is I understand everything that's going on. So hockey with German commentary is quite a I just sort of fall into it. Also, the games just seem to be at really awkward times in terms of being able to find a spot to watch them. For me, it seems to be like mid-afternoon a lot of the time. Although I hear that the Czech Republic is a really nice place. Czechia is a great place to visit, and maybe I should go over there at some stage and watch some hockey. I don't know, but it doesn't hurt, does it? I say enough. Go see new things in new places. So maybe I'll try and make an effort in the next little while to try and go and watch a game there. But there are places in Germany I do want to be able to kind of get to as well. So, but yes, certainly different, certainly interesting. Of course, we should on Friday evening have an announcement from Peterborough as to a new player for them. Very interested to see who Slava Kulikov is about to pull out of the bag. A lot of rumour that it's going to be their new import. Peterborough, of course, did put out their sort of answers to questions for the directors, which basically was a page of nothing, and they didn't finish one of the answers properly. But it was a lot of people asking a lot of questions to the Phantoms at things that weren't within their control, like the rink. Phantoms don't own the rink. Parking, but Phantoms don't own any of the local parking and stuff like that. So it's a lot of things that the Phantoms can influence but don't ultimately control. And I think maybe the question there from Phantoms fans to their ownership is, try to exert a bit more of your influence, try to start pressuring more to get some more answers, because people talk about the state of the rink at Bretton, that it's not great and the parking is really difficult, and obviously these are things that massively impact the Phantoms. The Phantoms have some of the highest ticket prices in the league, and they say that they need that to be able to survive, and it's probably because of the things like the increased costs of operating in a rink that is not quite up to spec as it should be, he says, with a knowing wink and a smile and the gut-wrenching pain. I went to Czechia when no one spoke English. Probably because if you started speaking English, they thought you were a spy. But yeah, no, Czech is just not a place I've been. I've been Slovakia. I've been Slovakia for a day because for people not familiar with the European geography, Vienna and Bratislava are about an hour apart. Bratislava all used to be part of like the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The Germans call it Pressburg because that's its old. The Austrians certainly call it Pressburg in places because that's its old Germanic name. But yet they're an hour apart on the train. Just like Copenhagen and Malmö are pretty much next to each other, so you can kind of do two countries very, very quickly there. Didn't have the opportunity to go to the hockey when I was on the day I was in Bratislava. Rumour is the fantasy signing is a 6'7" forward who played EIHA conference hockey and was born in Edinburgh. At least it fits the clues the club put out. Well, I mean, I haven't looked that hard at the clues that they've put out, I must confess, just because of other bits and pieces I've been doing. Had a very, very busy writing week this week and just kind of doing some bits and pieces. I've kind of hit a point where I've got a few bits and pieces kind of bubbling under the surface. I've got a couple of clubs that I'm working with on some stuff at the moment, and so I've not immediately started any big writing projects right now, so I'm kind of just trying to make a bit of use of my downtime. Still trying to pressure our friends at Milton Keynes about trying to sort out an interview. I've had a member of the ownership say that they'll come on, and just can't quite seem to get them to kind of commit fully to a time. So I'm going to keep pressing there. But I've got ideas, but I just kind of need to. I need to use my time wisely. I'm not here to kind of pump out content willy-nilly just for the sake of clicks. Ivan Björkley Nordstrom. That is a name and a half, isn't it? Deary me. Almost doesn't sound real. But why not? Take a chance on people, I suppose. Are you having a hockey fix this week? Yes, Andrew, you missed it. I did say towards the as we were talking about the national division, I'll be the colour commentator alongside Mr. Scuts for the Bees versus the Knights this coming Sunday. I'll be on the stream with Joe, so get to see the national division champions in action. I get to commentate on a game which I really enjoyed doing at the end of last year, so get a chance to do that. I get a chance to do it with one of my best friends within the hockey space, and Joe lives down the road from me as well. So not only that, we can road trip it together up to Slough, and then and we can just try and see what we can do and try and put out the best product that we can. Joe's always done an excellent job, so I'm hoping to kind of be able to add rather than subtract, I think is the thought on that one. But yeah, I will have a look at this Ivan Björkley Nordstrom chap at some point. Actually, we could do it now quickly. We've got a couple of moments. Getting towards the end of time though, so if people do want to chuck stuff into the comments. Obviously, as someone's mentioned here, it's 4-2 at the end of the second period between the Lightning and the Seahawks. Let's have a look and see if this lad's on Elite Prospects then. Leeds played well against the Pitbulls and the refs on Sunday. You don't play the refs. You play with the refs. You don't play against the refs, I think is the thing I would say. The officiating is a factor to be adapted to. And I think obviously we can disagree about decisions. We talked about a decision from South One this weekend that we certainly disagreed with, but it was not a but saying that you have to fight the refs I think is always a bit of the wrong way to approach it, in my opinion. So let's have a look at this out then. Ivan Björkley Nordstrom, playing the hockey at Tan, born Edinburgh, Scotland. Yep. So how much junior hockey he's played in Britain will be interesting. So I assume potentially he would count as an import. Linköping, Malmö Red Hawks Junior, AIK Junior, and then has played Swedish 4th Division last year, as well as playing Swedish 3rd Division last year. I was being sarcastic. Good, as long as you were. Sölvesborgs and Tyringe, and then Mörrums. So 7 points in 10 games in the Swedish 3rd tier is not bad, as well as 30 points in 26 games in Division 4 is pretty decent numbers for a guy coming into the coming into the British game. The question, of course, is, like I say, how much junior hockey did he play in Britain? Because you need to do 2 years of training under the age of 18 and I believe under 10. So between 10 and 18, you have to do 2 years in Britain. Will this lad be an import or a Brit? Because just being born in Edinburgh does not qualify him as British trained, obviously. Cheeky plug, hoping for Friday night. Might get donated till Saturday morning. The book is free, but please donate what you can. The aim is £1 for every player mentioned. Yes! NHL Stats, the book, coming soon. Joe has told me that he's finished it and that it should be ready to go. As he says, it will hopefully be out Friday or Saturday for free. But if you can donate, please do donate. Lots of people have kind of written a team review. I've written a team review about the Bison in there as well. So you've got some writing from me and a lot of other people as well, but should be a fantastic statistical resource for people. I hope folk enjoy it. Please do consider chucking some money into it as well. Interesting, an EIHA conference under 11 All-Star. There we go. Also, apparently in 1920, the under 18s Elite South League's most penalised player was this lad. He was the most penalised player in the league with 57 penalty minutes. Right, okay. Did his dad play in Edinburgh back in the Findus days? He may well have done. He's not... Can't immediately see his dad listed. Let's just quickly click a button here, because I'm looking at my phone, obviously. It does not list his father on his Elite Prospect page. So I don't know what to say on that one. Last call though, ladies and gentlemen, as we're at 9:15. Last call for questions, comments, anything else we're going to want to throw in there. But yes, sure, this might be the lad in question, Ivan Björkley Nordstrom. And if he's played conference at under 11, 2 seasons there of Scottish conference under 11s, but in 11-12 and 12-13. If that lad qualifies as British, this could be a very, very good pickup for them. Yes, that 1920 season, he was the most penalised player in the league, in the Junior 18 Elite League, as it were. 16 games, 57 penalty minutes, 13 plus 6 in 16 games, which is impressive. He's got some really interesting junior numbers, but just doesn't seem to have been able to press on to kind of be at that Allsvenskan level, which is a shame. But hey, this could be about to be a massive, massive game changer for Peterborough in terms of an X factor. But like I said, last call. We'll just finish up a few bits and pieces. But yes, keep tabs on the Bees social media if you want to hear me and Joe commentate on the Bees. On the Bees versus the Leeds Knights this coming Sunday. Really looking forward to seeing this new look Leeds side and seeing almost half a basic sex roster from last year, which should be a lot of fun. But yeah, it should be if you aren't at a game on Sunday and you fancy joining me and Joe, then keep an eye on the Bees social media, get your stream tickets, and come and join the party. I'm pretty certain they take messages from outside, so Joe and I can have some fun chatting through things. But hopefully we're going to get a really good hockey game. Joe and I are going to endeavour to do our best to present it to you all in the best and most professional manner that we are able to. Looking forward to it to pick up my first bit of commentary of the new season. So it should be really, really good. I think then, like I say, we're nearly at 20 past, so I think it's time to call it there. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for everything related to the NIHL now. As well as a back catalogue of 12 years worth of stuff that you can read through, including our Hockey Story series, long form, in-depth pieces going from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into war and back again. Players, officials, player agents, the movers and shakers of British and world hockey there over on the website, as well as the back catalogue of the old BOTW podcast that's there, and our free to download ice hockey tabletop game, Dice Hockey. Like I say, it's free to download. All the things are there for you to download, and you can then play it with a bunch of things around your house. All I ask is that if you download it and you enjoy it, please do consider donating to Parkinson's UK. My dad has Parkinson's. Parkinson's is really crappy, and I really, really wish we could find a way to do bits and pieces for research. Even if we can't help my dad, that we can help people down the line and hopefully find a way to start getting rid of this really horrible disease that does a lot of really, really nasty things to people. But a bunch of that stuff is all there. Lots for you to enjoy over at bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Facebook.com/bannersonthewall if you like stuff in your through your Facebook newsfeed. That's one way. Follow us on there. Everything that goes on the website, as well as other bits and pieces go out on there. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, is at BannersOTW. That's where I'm most active. That's where you'll get a little bit, almost a bit of a running commentary on things as well. And you are, of course, on YouTube. It's Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. throughout the British season, the BOTW What's Current stream to cover all 5 divisions of the NIHL National Division. As we are on Twitter, of course, please, let's keep the algorithm hamster running on his wheel. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Please like the video, share it out, comment, do all those bits and pieces, because the more folk we get in, the more eyes we get on stuff, and hopefully the more people we can get kind of involved in this weird and wonderful world that is British hockey. And of course, if you do enjoy what you see, the virtual busking hat is getting passed around. The link is down there in the description. buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Like I say, it's, I put out what I put out. The busking hat is there. If you like what you see and you can chuck a few quid in to contribute to my costs across the year, it's massively appreciated. And it goes a long way to being able to help me do cool stuff and make the kind of fun things that you like the What's Current stream, and being able to go on trips and do stuff is kind of what we're here for, and that would be great. But like I say, even if absolute worst case scenario, you can join us back here every Wednesday night or catch up on the channel. Also as well, the YouTube channel's got a lot of stuff on it. It's got every old What's Current stream that we've done on YouTube, as well as all of those video interviews that I've done with owners, players. There's old game bits and pieces, old other pieces from the Bison. So lots of player signings, player departures, game recaps and things like that. There's plenty to see on the YouTube channel if you're not subscribed already. But some of the interviews I did this past summer, I'm super proud of as well. The Aaron Nell interview, I'm really, really proud of. But also, like I say, you can catch up on every What's Current stream and join us live at 8 o'clock. It's great. Come join the chat. We have a whale of a time talking about hockey. Either way, that's us done for another week. Thank you for coming along for the ride. We will see who wins out between the Milton Keynes Lightning and the Hull Seahawks. Currently at 4-2 to the Lightning as we're about to go off the air. But some exciting, some good hockey coming up this weekend. I get to get behind the mic again for the first time since April, so I'm really, really looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun, so make sure if you can to join myself and Joe on the stream on Sunday, live from Slough for the Bees and the Leeds Knights. But even if you can't tune in for whatever reason, or hockey just isn't within your ability this weekend, be happy. And if you can't be happy, then please do whatever you can. Please do be safe. As my friend Scotty would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe. And so long till next time. We will catch you back here Wednesday night for the next What's Current stream. Until then, enjoy your hockey where you find it.